Is Jey Uso about to turn heel and join the Vision? Sami Zayn has dropped the United States Championship, but could this actually be good news for him? And Mercedes Moné has won her 11th and 12th championship belts. But at this point, I think this gimmick has gone too far. I'm Ben Allison here at Wrestling Republic, and a lot of wrestling happens in a week. From America to Japan to the UK to Mexico, and based on all the wrestling that I have consumed and analysed this week, here are my 5 key findings. In at number 5, WWE programming is starting to get back to its best. The main booking with the weekly product between WrestleMania and WrestlePalooza this year was that for the most part the weekly product did not feel important. The vast majority of segments felt filler. You can miss an episode of Raw and easily not miss anything. Most segments felt like they had no real repercussions, and also a lot of the time it just felt really repetitive with the same matches over and over and over again. But the worst part is those matches often didn't even matter. The Vision were having the same tag team matches every single week, and nothing came from them, ever. So it felt like they were booking from premium live event to premium live event instead of week to week, when in reality you need to find a balance between those two, especially when your weekly product is so important like it is right now in WWE. But since WrestlePalooza, and more specifically the last 3 weeks, the product has become so much better. Why? Well, because segments have felt like they mattered a lot more. And last night's Raw was the perfect example of that, because literally every segment was important, it mattered, and therefore the Raw flew by and I was entertained from start until finish. And of course, you can't do that every week, but even still, having segments on every show which matter is important. And shout out to Sami Zayn, because his US Open Challenge did that too. And people do forget now that when Triple H took over, there were concerns and major concerns about how he would book the week-to-week product, because people do forget that when he was booking NXT Black and Gold, for the most part, the week-to-week product didn't matter and was usually not too great for most of it, because he was booking from takeover to takeover. So with only a few exceptions, most of the time NXT TV tapings very rarely mattered, and so many weeks were complete filler. And that was because it was on the network, it didn't matter. But then when it went to USA and went to 2 hours, there were some concerns immediately, because some weeks were fantastic and then other weeks were complete and utter filler. And this led to the viewership taking an absolute nosedive. I mean, people do forget NXT lost viewership faster than Raw did in late 2019, and that was 2019 Raw. Now, don't get me wrong, NXT was still better than Raw at that time, but data doesn't lie. Anyway, hopefully this momentum does continue for WWE, because they had a really stale few months and they need to bounce back. In at number 4, the Mercedes Moné belt collector gimmick has gone too far now. This week, Moné won not only her 11th, but also her 12th championship belt. And as you guys know, I am a Moné defender. I love her. I think she is fantastic. But 12 belts, that is just taking the mick. I love this gimmick, but it should have stopped at 10. And then to break the record with 11, you could have had her feud with Chris Statlander for the AEW Championship, the AEW versus TBS title. That would have been a big match, which they are seemingly doing anyway. So adding the Ring of Honor TV title and this new Winnipeg title to it just makes no sense. Because firstly, the interim title shouldn't even count anyway until she defeats Red Velvet. But secondly, she is not going to be able to defend all these titles, right? And despite what the IWC are saying, her winning these indie titles are helping these independent promotions. But the more she wins, the less it does help them. In at number 3, there is only one good reason for Sami Zayn losing the United States Championship this early. And that is that he is going to win the Royal Rumble. Sorry, Sami haters, but this guy deserves a world championship. Every gimmick he's been given, every match he has, he makes it work, he gives it his all, and it always, well nearly always, ends up being a banger. And there's not many wrestlers you can say that about. So forget deserving, he has earned a world championship. And the fact he has never won one, that is insane to me. So the fact that some fans are turning on him, I still can't get my head around that. But what we do know is that Saudi Arabia absolutely loves Sami Zayn, and because they are hosting the 2026 Royal Rumble, my prediction has been for months that he will win that, and then go on to WrestleMania to face Seth Rollins for the world title. However, obviously, that is now off the cards. But even still, I hope they find a way to do Sami Zayn versus some heel for the world title at Mania, because Sami Zayn really does deserve a lengthy world title run. Now, before we get into the top 2 key findings, please do me a huge favor and leave a like on this video and comment your thoughts down below, and hit that subscribe and notification bell if you haven't already. Hitting the notification bell is the best way to know when we release new videos, because we know that busy YouTube subscription box isn't going to tell you anything. In at number 2, the Death Riders need to turn on Jon Moxley on this week's Dynamite. As much as I wanted this faction to end with Jon Moxley dropping the title, it is clear that they have made the decision that won't be the case, because Daniel Garcia has joined them. But at this point, if you're going to continue it, it needs to be without Moxley, and here are the 2 reasons why. The first one being is Moxley needs a character change. I do think overall this gimmick has worked, but now it is getting stale and it is time for a refresh. We need to see a babyface Jon Moxley once again. But the second reason is that Jon Moxley said the words, "I quit." And let's face it, he quit quite easily. He put Darby Allin through a lot more, and Darby didn't quit, but Moxley, after only going through a little bit of violence, quit. And that goes against everything the Death Riders stand for. So this week on Dynamite, have Jon Moxley come out, invite out Darby Allin, and at this point, he will praise Darby Allin. He will say he has become everything he wanted him to become, and he has proved himself. And don't have them shake hands at this point, because they still need to hate each other to an extent, or at least Darby needs to hate Moxley. But at least have them both give a little bit of a nod to each other, or something like that, something subtle. And at that point, have the Death Riders come out and kick Moxley out of the group, put a bag over his head, Daniel Bryan style, and have Pac be the new leader of the Death Riders. And in at number 1, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I am fearing that either CM Punk or Jey Uso is going to become the new leader of the Vision. The main reason I'm thinking this is, why were the Vision removed from the main event last night? Even if they were going to lose, you could have eliminated them and set up a new feud. But the fact that that wasn't the case makes me think they're going to be involved in this. And I mean, the obvious choice is Jey Uso, because Jey Uso, they're teasing a heel turn with him. They have been for quite some time. But maybe they could try and do a double turn and turn Punk heel instead? I don't know, and I really dislike both ideas. Because I don't think the Vision should replace Seth Rollins with another veteran. It doesn't make any sense to me. The reason they got rid of Seth Rollins was that they felt they were ready now. I do agree they do need a third guy. You can't have a 2-man faction. But that third guy should be, as you guys know that I think, Austin Theory, or at least somebody else like that. Somebody who is young, full of potential, but that can also take pins for the time being. I'm really not sure I like where this is going. But that does bring us to the end of this week's Allison Analysis. I will be back same time, same place next week to give you my next 5 key findings from this week in professional wrestling. So make sure to check it out then. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Peace.